Welcome to the Trainer Talk, where we discuss topics related to health and fitness to help you gain back control of your health and fitness and become the absolute best version of yourself physically and mentally. Enjoy. All right, so today we're going to be talking about fitness at all ages and what we should do for training. For example, if you're a young kid, maybe a teenager, an adult, middle-aged, elderly, what should you focus on to maximize or get the best result? This was requested by Doran's dad, so shout out to him for giving us this idea because I think it's an awesome topic, especially because we were just talking a little bit ago and like a lot of parents, they don't think that their young kids should like work out or lift weights, or maybe they don't know what they should do and shouldn't do. There's a lot of kids that enter high school as a 13-year-old and they're playing football and they're in there lifting as much weight as they possibly can with deadlifts and squats and bench, and they might not be doing things correctly. So there's kind of some pros and cons. There's a lot of gray area. So we want to try to clean some of that up and just give people some insight on, okay, what should you be doing at kind of every stage of life? So we can start with younger kids. We have a kids fitness class that DeLorean coaches and Martin, and it's 7 to 11-year-olds. And I'll just put 7 to 12 for this circumstance. But basically in that class, we are teaching kids the basic foundational movements. We're working on things like our body squats and push-ups and box jumps, and we are trying to get them to improve their coordination and their balance and agility by doing, between the jumps, the agility ladders, maybe some battle ropes, some wall balls, things to help them with developing just their physical skills and developing their bodies to be able to do more as they get older. So we aren't really introducing any barbells or heavy weights, but we will introduce kettlebells and dumbbells and body weight movements to build a foundational strength and movement patterns. That way, when they do get to be a teenager, they've got a good starting point and they can introduce the heavier weights safely. Do you have anything else that you want to add? Like maybe some things that you do with them or?
Yeah, well, first, the main thing is, like you said, it's not about lifting a ton of weight. It's about developing the right form and the technique for the movements that they're going to be performing, like just in daily activity. And then when they get a little older and they're playing sports and they're training for sports, they have the right technique and form down, even if it's just a squat. Kids come in, so many times we see them not performing a squat correctly, so that's like the first thing, like in the warm-up, that's the first thing we look for, is if they're doing these movements correctly. Some of the stuff that we do with them, a lot of it is just body weight stuff, and we're just having them move and moving through full range of motion, whether it's push-ups, sit-ups, squats, burpees, yep. And we train them like athletes. We really do. We still have speed and agility and balance and coordination. We still have all these different types of training in there. It's just modified so it fits their age. Yeah.
The big thing that I want to add before we go like to any other ages or anything is it's crucial for kids to develop those skills at that age. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what kids can actually learn and do, and then you'll see it transfer over. Like, we've got adults that I train, and you hand them a jump rope at 45 years old, and they can crank out single unders because they learned how to do it when they were 6. Yeah. It's like, it's amazing what you can absorb and learn as skills when you're a young kid and transfer over into your life. So, like, if you can learn how to properly squat, and properly do a push-up and properly do all these things as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, you're going to be so much better at it and get way better results when you are a teenager and an adult.
It's such an advantage.
And you see kids like Martin that did gymnastics as a kid, and the kid came into CrossFit, and in 6 months he was a better athlete than me, and I've been doing it for 6 years. And he just completely demolished everything he did because he had such this great foundation of strength. He could walk on his hands for 100 feet if he wanted to and do muscle ups and all that crazy stuff just because he built the foundation as a young kid. So that's where it's crucial to get your kids active, not just in sports, but with this type of training, it's going to make all those sports, they're going to be better athletes, and develop those skills for later in life.
Yeah. And like to add to that, like I've been able to do a headstand since I was a young kid. And like if you try to teach an adult how to do anything like that, like it's a lot harder than when you're a kid. So I think starting them young, and I think like making it fun, because you want them to stick with it their whole life. Like this isn't something to just do in elementary school and high school, but we want to keep them active forever. So making it fun and games, and it's just a little bit different than just doing a workout class. It's like making it
little
game
more
type,
engaging.
I guess. Yeah.
Make it a little more fun. But yeah, it's very beneficial for kids to learn the body awareness and develop that just like body weight strength. Like with gymnastics, gymnastics is probably one of the best training modalities for that, is developing the body awareness, developing body weight strength, because then it does transition into literally any other sport that you want to do, because you have to know where your body is in position in space, like when you're doing basketball, football, and it just makes you a much better athlete, more explosive, because you're able to like move your body in the correct way. And so like doing all these exercises as well, it's like doing some more explosive movements and stuff like that. Like they have to learn how to move their bodies. And yeah, it sets them up better later in life. Like we see adults, like you said, with the jump rope, but even just athletes, there's people that they were athletes or they did workouts when they were in their teenagers or 20s or whatever. And then they come back in their 40s and they still move well. It's just their capacity's diminished.
Right.
And so it just sets them up better for later in life and for sport especially.
Yeah, for sure. And the one thing I do want to point out as we go through this is probably from when I was born all the way until I was about 20, 21, I did a lot of things incorrectly. So I'm hoping that this video will help parents and kids understand where they should be at and what they should be focusing on right now, to help avoid the mistakes that we've probably all made in our past of training and not knowing what to do and how to do it. So as we go into the 13, 14, 15-year-old category, that's kind of like my next stage of training. You should be introducing the barbell and some heavier weights at this point, but it's crucial to make sure that you're learning that proper form technique. So you're not going to throw a 13-year-old and do a 1-rep max deadlift and back squat and bench press until they've mastered the movement. So it'd be better to have them use lighter weights and perform more reps to get the form and technique developed through repetition. If you think about anything you do, the more times you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So if they're performing, sets and reps with a more moderate or lighter weight, maybe instead of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 reps, you're doing 8, 10, 12, 15 reps, but you're getting really good at the technique, building core stability. That's going to be really important for a younger teenager because their bodies are still developing. So you want to make sure that your training is kind of matching that development. You're not overdoing anything or injuring yourself as you're trying to get stronger for a sport. So I would say, from my personal opinion, I would say introduce the barbell and some more strength training with heavier dumbbells and kettlebells, things like that. But make sure you're doing everything with very good, proper technique and build a foundational strength. So don't just train really heavy. Train under more volume and load. That way you're mastering the movements is my top kind of tip.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an influential period of their life, so you don't want to be, even when it comes to exercising and working out, you don't want to be building bad habits by doing things incorrectly and then setting yourself up to get injured and fail in the future. And like you said, the more reps, you're not necessarily going for strength, you're just going for that mind-muscle connection and trying to figure out the right form. One thing I wanted to add for middle school, getting into like junior high, high school range, I think it's really, really important for these age of kids to stay active throughout the year, all year round. instead of playing one sport, say they play football in the fall and then the rest of the year they're just sitting in their room playing video games.
Yeah.
Like they're losing. It's at this age, it's super, super easy to lose everything that you gained in just that season. So I think it's super important to stay active throughout the year in a variety of different sports too. So playing, different basketball, football, track. So like exposing yourself to different movements, maybe running cross country, different types of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important.
Yeah. And to add on to that real quick is like, think about all the football players and stuff. Like they train really hard for 4 to 8 weeks before the season, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you actually want to be a really good athlete or be stronger, develop, you've got to train year round. You just adjust your volume accordingly. So during a season, you might cut that back to maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but off season, you want to be training 3, 4, 5 times a week. So.
Yeah, and I think like just having like a weightlifting coach or personal trainer, like somebody that actually knows proper form, because in my experience anyways, I know like a lot of my coaches in high school, like they know the sport really well, but they might not necessarily know like the weightlifting part. And I just remember being thrown into a weight room, and I remember like so many injuries happening like in junior high, especially like I think like junior high, middle school, because again, we're not fully developed and we're doing things improperly because we weren't taught how to do them properly. So I think just kind of being aware of, if the coach doesn't know exactly what to do, like finding somebody that does.
Yeah, and then like especially for the 13 to 16 range, or like you said, junior high and into high school, your bodies are the bodies are changing so rapidly, and like yes, even without strength training or without the fitness training, just through getting older, you do get faster, you do get stronger. Just because of your body, like the body's actually just developing. But it's like, imagine you can like 2 times or like 3 times the changes that a body can go through by adding in the other training. Mm-hmm. And it's like maximizing what they have, and then those habits hopefully, like, I mean, for me, if I didn't do sports and if I didn't do weight training for softball, I mean, I probably wouldn't be here. So it's like, setting them up for the future success of like, okay, still stay in shape. Like fitness should still be a part of your everyday routine, whether you're in a sport or not, whether you're in season or not, and then even in season, like you said, still maintaining what you built in the off season too.
Yeah, and the last thing I would like to add to that is try to train full body functional movements as a kid. I couldn't tell you how many kids, like me and my buddies, it was in there. We were doing freaking bench press and some arms and shoulders, and then maybe legs once a month or whatever it was. Like, you're not going to develop your entire body by just doing that. You've got to incorporate more functional movements. And when I say functional, it's multi-muscle, multi-joint. So things like doing squats and deadlifts and power cleans, snatches, dumbbell work, unilateral strength. So like single arm pressing, single arm, carries, things like that are working opposing sides of your body. Like all that stuff's going to be very good for developing your body as a whole, and just making sure that you're utilizing all the energy systems and physical skills that are going to apply to sports, but also just life. So it definitely does not just apply to athletes. I mean, I played hockey and I was a very serious hockey player, but that was about the only sport I was into. And as soon as I graduated, it was just fitness from there. So it set me up for fitness after school. So I think, and if like for you being an athlete in high school, fitness was your way to be competitive after school and after sports were over. So for athletes, it's very beneficial to be a better athlete, but it's also beneficial just to be healthier after you graduate. And then for people that don't care about sports, still great way to be active and healthy for whatever you're doing outside of the gym. Yeah. As we go to like 16, 17, 18, and maybe even 19, might as well just say 16 to 19-year-olds, same type of training, functional movements, making sure you're training like off season 3, 4, 5 times a week. During the season, I don't know why so many athletes just completely avoid the gym during the season. They think it's going to affect their game or they don't want to be sore. Working out is going to make you perform better. Period. Like, you just have to train smart. So you can't go in there and max out your lifts and do 17 sets of 5 with heavy weight. Like, you just adjust the volume, make sure you're not going to complete failure. So maybe it's stopping 2 reps in reserve, or only training up to 75 or 80%, and maybe cutting down the total sets. But you're maintaining your strength, and then you're still going to perform really, really well. But with that, you can start to incorporate some more weights. So I think at 16, 17, 18, especially for boys, like, their testosterone's starting to kick in. They're starting to develop more. The more functional training and the heavier weights, obviously, the stronger, bigger you're going to get, faster you're going to get. So this is where you don't be afraid to start pushing some weights, as long as you've developed the form and technique and the foundational movement patterns when you were a kid or when you were a younger teenager. If you've got those movement patterns down, now it's time to, like, step up and lift a little bit heavier. There is really no limit for a 16, 17, 18-year-old as far as what they should and shouldn't do. It's just making sure you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, I think, what was I going to say? I wanted to add something about female athletes. I actually learned this in school. So as female athletes are training and getting older, they have less upper body strength than men. So we learned one thing was that it's important to add a little bit extra upper body in their training program because of that. And also for, high school female athletes especially, they're between like 6 and 8 times more likely to have a knee injury, more specifically like tear their ACL. And so one statistic I saw was that there's like between 2 and 4 million female athletes a year that tear their ACL. Million. And
Wow.
So most of them are in high school. The majority of them are in high school because of the coaches that they have. They don't know this. And then it drops down a little bit once they get to college. The coaches have a little bit more credibility. And so it's important to add that type of prevention, knee injury prevention training into their training program. And even I can think of 4 or 5 just from when I went to school.
I've been training like Tori since she was 13 and she's 20. Yeah. So I've been training her for 7 years, and she came in because of that.
Yeah.
She tore an ACL. She had to rehab and repair it. As a 13-year-old, and you having multiple surgeries, like, that is terrifying for your future, to not know how to prevent these things. And basically that comes down to, well, 1, probably improper training and volume, 2, probably an improper warm-up, and then not enough mobility and stretching and stuff like that post-workout as well.
So you want to know the science behind it?
Sure.
So so your knees go in, but why that starts to happen at, the high school age, when they're, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, their hips start widening. So the angle from their hips to their knees change, whereas men are very straight.
Yeah.
And so naturally, when they go to squat or when they go to shove off, like, their knees go out like they should. But then when the hips start to go a little bit wider, your center of gravity starts to change as a female, your knees start going in rather than that. So that's where your ACL tears happen. It's like you go to turn, your knee goes in, there goes the ACL. And yes, like, how you change that is like, okay, making sure that they're emphasizing the knee drive out as they're squatting. I see so many women and like young girls, like, when they're squatting, their knees just want to keep caving in, or like they'll do like a lunge and their knees go in, and I'm like, this is a really bad movement pattern that obviously just hasn't been corrected over time. When, like, once your body changes, like, you can watch, maybe girls that are 6, 7, 8 that come in for fit camp, they're pretty much, as body-wise, they're about the same as the boys.
Yeah.
Like, they can squat the same mechanics-wise and everything, like, you don't have to worry about it. But then once they hit that age where their body starts to change, it's like, okay, it kind of throws another variable in there. So doing more like unilateral stuff and making sure the knee is tracking how it should is what, so like doing the stabilization exercises, doing like banded exercises where it forces them to externally rotate, so like push their knee out instead of letting it cave in. It's like adding more of those training in, like that's really going to go a long way to prevent the ACL injuries.
Yeah. In the two sports you see it in the most are basketball and soccer. So those quick
where you're running, twisting and turning.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so another great point is like, okay, what do I need to do for my specific sport to make sure that I'm healthy and, you know, avoiding injury, getting stronger, things like that. So it's, again, comes down to like doing your research. Find somebody that knows what to do, how to do it, learn from them, apply it, and stick to it. So, you know, Tori found me 7 years ago. She's still training. And for the most part, she hasn't had many issues with the knee at all. She had one setback, but then she's been pretty much fine with the knee anyways since. So that's really cool. Moving on to like 20 to 39 is kind of our next bracket, basically between 20 and 39. Again, like my recommendation would be to do full body every week. So functional movements, you know, most of our clients are training two to 5 times a week. I would say 3 to 5 is probably the best. Functional training. So you could do this a couple different ways. Like you could do 3 full body workouts with a day off in between. You could do like an upper lower day off, upper lower if you did 4, or if you want to do 5, you could split that up a little bit differently. Maybe it's like a upper lower, a conditioning day, upper lower, something like that. But essentially you just want to make sure that you're not overtraining any one specific area. A lot of times I'll see, well, guys, maybe they work chest every day, like might want to avoid that. Girls, it's like glutes every day.
Yeah.
Give yourself a little bit of a break, a little bit of rest period, hit different opposing muscles. So you could still do legs every day, but maybe it's like quads one day, and then the next day it's hamstrings and glutes, and then you kind of rotate back and forth with that. We won't get too much into that aspect of it, but 20 to 39 is kind of like you can train as highly intense as you want, as long as you're matching it with the right amount of recovery. So for us, you know, we'll just kind of relate it to CrossFit. Like the CrossFit Games age bracket is basically 19 to 35. So those people are all in the same category as far as their training. So for anybody out there that's like, ooh, I'm in my 30s, like what should I be doing and not doing? It's like you could pretty much do everything as long as you, again, learn the proper form and techniques. Going back to what Bethany said, it's a little bit harder to, like, you learn a lot of those things as a kid and they stick with you longer. It's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Mm-hmm. So the longer you wait, the harder it is going to be to learn proper movement patterns and form and technique. But it's, you know, the best time is today. So or the second best time. The best time would be when you're a kid. The second best time would be today. But that's what I would have to say for adults. Like for me right now, I'm going to be 30 in June next year. I'm still training very high intensity, functional, doing CrossFit pretty competitively. And so you can pretty much train it however high intensity you want. And as long as you're comparing that or pairing that with proper recovery, mobility, flexibility, warm-up, stretching, you're going to be healthy and safe.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, too, that when you hit right around 30 years old, you get to the top of that muscle and bone density curve, super, you know, your testosterone's real high, and then you start to get over 30.
Slowly starts to go down.
Yep, so your muscle mass starts decreasing if you don't weight train. Mm-hmm. Your bone density starts decreasing.
Metabolism starts to slow, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just things that naturally occur once you get to that age. And so if you're not loading your body with weight, if you're not resistance training, and it doesn't have to be a ton of weight, like depends on the person, but for us, you know, we need a little bit more weight to maintain what we have. But, you know, you're going to help keep your bone density and your muscle mass, and it's preventative. Yeah. No, yeah, a lot of people think you can't control that. Like, it's just how it happens, but you can totally prevent that from happening by weight training.
So. Yeah, I would say those are they can be like your prime years, really. Mm-hmm. Like, you have the potential to, like, you're fully developed, you're not changing too much anymore. So you really have the potential to like be your strongest, your fastest, like all of those things, but you have to put in the work, or else, you're gonna start to kind of deteriorate even at a pretty young age.
Yeah, and the biggest thing they do, like during that time, it's like go hard, like try to build as much muscle as you can because it just gets harder as you get older. Because obviously, as you've trained for a while, if you've trained consistently for 10 years, you're probably really close to like the most amount of muscle you're ever going to build naturally, which most people only worry about that. But like, it doesn't mean that you can't, if you've never worked out before and you start when you're 60, it doesn't mean you're not going to build muscle. You're still going to build muscle. But just over time, it's like try to build the maximum amount of strength and muscle as you can in that time frame from like 20 to 30s. Even like, you can even get in your late 30s. So you can still keep getting stronger.
I would say 20 to 39 even.
Yeah, and then from there, it's just a maintaining game. It's like still try to just maintain that strength, maintain that muscle mass, maintain the fitness.
Yeah.
And a big thing with that age too is like, especially when you're younger, you don't have a lot of responsibilities. Like I gotta take care of myself. That's about it. I gotta pay my bills. That's about it. And so it's like I have a lot more time and energy to put into my fitness right now. Whereas like if I had a child, if I was married, if I had all these different things in my life that, it needed more attention from me, like I had to put those as a priority as well. Like you just don't have as much energy to put into those things. Like eventually you kind of do, kind of like goes back and forth, depends on you specifically, if you, are able to or not. But it's like take advantage of the years that you can do it, and it'll just set you up for the rest of your life as well.
Yeah. I'll post a picture of this, and I'll probably pop it up on the Trainer Talk when we post it on Monday. But you want to look at your life like on the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. So like Bethany said, the farther you can get to that fitness level, the better off you're going to be, the longer your health span will be. So you're going to reach a point to where no matter what you do, you're going to slowly creep down. Once you hit a certain age, you're going to start to get a little bit weaker or a little bit more unhealthy. Like that's just natural way of life, right? But like she said, like when you're in your peak years, 20 to 39, if you can get as close to you can as the fittest, healthiest version of yourself, you're going to be able to maintain that level for a long duration of time. So if you have a 90-year lifespan, you're going to have an 88-year health span, right? Yeah. So it's not just about how long can we live, it's how long can we live in a healthy position where we can do the things that we love. And so unfortunately, when you go to the doctor as a 35-year-old and they say, you're doing pretty well, your blood pressure is right around normal, you don't have high cholesterol, your heart rate's 70 beats a minute, it's not too bad. And they're like, oh, cool, I'm healthy, I don't need to do anything. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years go by, bad eating and bad choices, and boom, you develop high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetic. It takes a couple of years, and it just smacks you right in the face, and all of a sudden you got these health problems because you were right on the borderline of wellness and sickness. So between eating healthy and working out regularly, exercising, moving your body, if you can get up into the fitness realm, something like that could happen where maybe something traumatic happens. You get injured, you lose your job, you lose a family member, some traumatic thing happens and you get thrown off your rails, you at least can maintain your health and well-being for a longer duration of time until you can get back on track. Because I can tell you, once you do develop diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, it's a way harder battle to get back up to wellness. Okay, so let's avoid that as much as possible. And it's kind of funny, like bringing up like you right now, like, okay, you're what, 22, and you're working at the gym at least 45 hours a week probably. And you just said, I have a lot of time. Except when you talk to the average college student, they're like, I have 0 time to work out. Oh, I'm so busy with school. And it's like, okay, you've got what, like 13 credit hours. So you're in school for 13 hours a week. What are you doing the other like 150 hours? And I get it, you have to study and all that stuff. But what you don't realize is what you think is busy right now is not busy. You can definitely make time for a 15-minute workout, go for a walk, go to the gym while you're at school and get a workout in. I worked 30 hours a week. I went to school full time, and I worked out for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week when I was in college. And I still had a ton of time to do crap with friends. Like, you can make it work if you try.
Yeah.
And the other unfortunate thing about college kids is they don't think they need to work out because they're healthy.
Yeah.
And then they develop a lot of bad habits, bad eating. You're kind of on your own for the first time. You don't really know what to eat or how to cook, things like that. And then once you do approach like 30, like you said, when everything starts slowing down, boom, weight comes on. And they're like, what the heck happened? I was just this healthy college kid, skinny. So
young and invincible.
Young and invincible. Avoid that at all costs. Like I said, the best time to start was when you were young. The second best time is right now. No matter what age you are, start taking care of yourself. If you're 20 years old, watch this, start right now. If you're 30, start right now. 40, start right now. Now we can go into, is that good on the 20 to 39?
Yeah.
40 to 49, I would say you're in that maintenance. It's just like, okay, I've developed all this strength. I've got the habits. I've been working out for X amount of years, whatever it is. Now we need to maintain our health and fitness. I would say you're still training the same volume. So whether that's 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, functional movements, you're incorporating all the energy systems. So strength training, you're doing some conditioning, cardio, aerobic training. You want to make sure that you're healthy cardiovascularly and strength, but you don't have to go as high intensity, I would say, just to avoid injury. Like right now we do some pretty insane stuff as far as our workouts go. Sometimes they're 2 hours in duration. I would say if you just want to care about being fit and healthy, you could lower the intensity. Don't worry so much about lifting maximal efforts and maximal weights. I would still lift heavy, but it's okay to just train to 80%, 90%, not going 100% all the time, just to avoid burnout and avoid injury. That would be kind of where I would go with it. That's how I foresee my training. Right now, I'm still pretty peaked. I'm training very high intensity, but I foresee once I approach 40, I'm going to still do CrossFit workouts, but at a lower intensity, and I'm totally okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to come in here and spend 2 hours a day killing myself with CrossFit workouts. I'm probably going to come in here and do 45 minutes to 60 minutes, maybe even do fit camps. Maybe Bethany will be doing all my fit camps, and I'll come in and do class with her when I'm 40. So that's just kind of my idea with it.
I'm the same way. I'm not shooting for the stars, trying to make it to the CrossFit Games or like going to do a bodybuilding competition at 40 years old. I'm just trying to have fun with it, stay fit. I'm not coming in to, like you said, kill myself in workouts, and I'm not going to have any big goals. I mean, all power to you if you do, but like for me, at that point, I'm going to have so many, like you said, different obligations in life, probably, where I'm going to have to take a little bit of water out of that cup in the gym and put it in other things, but still, put in the time in maintaining what I have.
Yep.
Yeah, I think same, and just being able to, I don't know, you won't really probably have grandkids by then. Well, if you're going up to
Late
59,
50s.
yeah, you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being able to run around
Keep
with your
up.
grandkids, and that's kind of what I think of as healthy. And again, like just your bones and muscles are going to start to deteriorate, so just keeping those as strong as you can so you are living a functional life as you get older.
Yeah, and then plus you get the other benefits of exercise too, like the energy boost, the mood boost, like all that kind of stuff too. Just helps make everyday things easier. I do want to mention that, especially with like the high skill like gymnastic movements, like a bunch of the really, I guess they're more like impactful. So there's more strain on your joints and your ligaments and stuff like that. Taking those down once you hit 40s to 59. Doing more of like, okay, we're just going to do like the tempo work where it's, slow, controlled, eccentric, get a good stretch at the bottom, focusing on muscle building. That's probably what I do when I hit like 40. It's like, okay, I still do like the strength training, still do some explosive, but like very small amount, I guess, just to like limit the risk of injury and stuff like that. Because if you get injured at, 20 years old, you can recover pretty fast, but then it's harder when you're older. Yeah, it's harder to bounce back. It's just you don't have as many new regenerative tissues. But yeah, focusing mostly on like the muscle gain, it's just kind of maintain your strength as much as you can, like still lift heavy, but you really don't even have to PR like a 1 rep max when you're older. You don't even have to when you're younger even, but that's if you want to see what you can get to. That's your time to find it. But then it's like when you get older, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're smart about it and you've been training your whole life. Like nothing wrong with it, of course, but like you don't really have to. Maybe you could do like a 5 rep max or something like that. That's probably the most intense you'd have to go. Just like test your strength and stuff if you still like that. But just as far as like general health, that's probably the best way to go. But then if for someone who maybe hasn't been working out and they just start in their 40 to 59 range, like you can still build a lot of muscle. You can still change your fitness a lot in those years. And it's like, it's crazy just in what 2 years or a year could do for someone just doing 2-3 days a week of like a simple class. Like, I mean, my mom, for example, she was like struggling getting out of the bottom of a squat when she was reaching for something in the cupboard when she was in the 50s, and she's older now, and now she can do way more than she could when she was probably in her late 40s, maybe even 40. She's probably in better shape now just because she's been working out, she's been doing strength training. Like she's definitely stronger than she was, absolutely, and she's got more endurance, more energy, and just like feels good after workouts and stuff like that. But focusing on that and still trying to keep like joints healthy, muscles healthy, and everything like that. So that way, when she does get to be 80 or something, she can play with my grandkids and babysit.
And I'm glad you brought that up because like our average age client is 40 to 60. That's kind of the average age we work with, and those people are just starting their fitness journey. So they're making tons of progress in their strength and in their cardio and setting PRs. So it definitely is doable. So don't be afraid to do that, but don't just know that it's not like required. Like you don't have to max out all the time or anything like that. If you want to keep going with fitness as long as possible and avoid those injuries, I think you nailed it on the head too. Like 20 to 39, more of a functional fitness routine. CrossFit, I think, is a great modality and method to use to develop a lot of skills and strength. And once you achieve or get to an age, like we met with Jen Broxerman, she just turned 39. She was a regional CrossFit athlete, which is, for those that don't know, it's a very, very, very fit individual, like one of the fittest in the world. And she's just like, I kind of got sick of doing ring muscle ups and handstand push-ups. I don't want to be in my head anymore. So she kind of cut out the gymnastics, but she still does like a strength and conditioning type program, more of like a boot camp. So I would go from more of the full-on CrossFit to more of a strength and conditioning, where I'm still doing the power lifts, maybe even some Olympic lifts, bodybuilding, and then still incorporating some aerobic capacity of some sort. Running, rowing, biking, still doing like some metabolic conditioning, but just getting rid of some of those really high intensity like gymnastic movements that could potentially cause an injury with overdoing. So I agree with that. That's how I would go between 40 and 59. And then once you reach 60 plus, and actually even 40, I did want to add, like, put a little bit more emphasis on mobility. Just because you are going to lose overall functionality and mobility. If you think about a lot of people as they get older, it's way harder to just do daily tasks. So one, keeping the strength, but two, staying mobile, like doing a squat and being able to come up. One, having the strength to do it, but also two, like being able to have the functionality and mobility to actually do that. So put a little bit more emphasis on your stretching and mobility, doing more full range of motion type things. That's what I would definitely focus on. And especially once you get 60 plus, it's going to incorporate more like balance, single motor or unit exercises to make sure you're developing the coordination and stabilizing muscles to make sure you're staying strong in your core. Stability, like core stability, people know if they've heard of that type of training, that's really important for, I would say, the 60 plus. Definitely still do strength training, resistance training, light dumbbells, light kettlebells, body weight, to again maintain that strength as long as you can. Be able to do a squat as long as you can without assistance. And a squat, for anybody that's listening, That's getting up out of your car, getting off the couch, getting out of a chair,
Mhm.
going to the bathroom. You've got to be able to do a squat to do any of those without assistance. So the moment you can't squat without assistance is the moment you need a walker or a cane or crutches or a wheelchair. So the squat itself is a very good indicator to see how strong am I, how good mobility do I have, functionality. The squat could be the number one thing I would say for all people to do and do regularly. And then still have the aerobic work, 60 to 90, however old you plan on living, walking, biking, rowing, some sort of like zone 2, zone 3, just to help with your cardiovascular endurance, cardiovascular health, heart health. That's going to be really, really important.
Yep. I wrote down a list of exercises that I thought were the most
Sweet.
important at 60 plus, and
Let's
squat was at the top. So obviously, like you said, you're squatting in just everyday activities all the time. Second is actually for your grip, like a dead hang. So think about how many times, like as you've heard of seniors, like they're older and they lose their grip on a railing or the chair and they fall over because they just can't hold that. So as you're walking down or upstairs and you're holding onto the railing, it's so important. Or just anything, carrying in the groceries, things like that.
How many people, you see commercials for those buttons when
Yeah.
people fall and can't get up and
Yeah.
they have an ambulance come, like immediately come. The ability to do a burpee is the ability to get up off the ground.
Yeah.
So a burpee would be on my list as well, as just going down to the floor and getting back up. That's a burpee. That's why we do them all the time. Everybody that's watching, I'm looking out for you in the future for when you're a 60 and 70-year-old so that you can get off the ground when you fall.
Even though I hate it.
That's why we do burpees.
So squat, dead hang, deadlift is one. You're
picking stuff off the ground.
Bending over and picking stuff off the ground, just bending over at the waist. And they get up and they're like, oh, my back. So that is what deadlift trains you to use your legs for one when you're doing that motion. And then it also strengthens your core and your lower back.
And I would say you don't need to do, it's not like a 60, 70-year-old needs to do heavy barbell deadlift.
No.
What we are saying is like you could do a dumbbell deadlift, a kettlebell deadlift, with proper form and technique and with enough load, you can maintain and build strength in that age doing those movements.
Yep. I had cardio, VO2, that zone 2 exercise where you're breaking a sweat. It's a conversational pace, but you're struggling to complete full sentences, basically, is the best way to describe it, in my opinion. And then the last one I had is actually a little different. It's slow and controlled deceleration. So one exercise that I've actually had a couple of my clients do is go up on maybe a couple 45s on the ground, a couple plates on the ground, or a bench or box, and stepping down and taking as much time as they can to step down. Because walking downstairs, you lose your balance, and you start falling forward, and you can't decelerate and control yourself in those slow and controlled movements like that. And that's another reason.
I like the tempo. You brought that up earlier, like the tempo training, the eccentric. A lot of people overlook and don't realize what eccentric is. Like when you squat, you don't just go down and then pop up. Like if you go real slow on the way down, you're training a ton of strength on the eccentric part and the concentric while you're coming back up. So same thing with that. Stepping down is just as beneficial, if not more beneficial, than stepping up onto the box or step. So train both of those areas, and that's going to give you the best bang for your buck.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to add in like doing step ups because so they can get up and down the stairs and just like a lot of upper body strength so that you can kind of push it. If you fall, you can push yourself up off the ground, and then having like the flexibility, like again, doing like a burpee, but to get up off the ground as well.
Yeah.
Fully.
And building core strength as well is really important. Like, just being able to do a sit up is sitting out of bed instead of having to roll out of bed. And that's like, if you roll out of bed wrong, you land on the ground, you break your hip. It's like you don't have the bone density to like be resilient or as resilient. Like if I roll out of bed and I hit my hip on the ground, it's like I get up, it maybe hurts for like a couple minutes and then I'm fine. I might wonder why there's a bruise there later because I forget about it. But for someone who's 80 and if they roll out of bed and they hit it just right, they could break their hip. And
Shatter,
unfortunately, when there's some sort of like an injury like that, it's usually means that, you know, they're probably going to need to die sometime in the next future. Like, really unfortunate.
Or it affects them the
For
rest
the
of
rest.
their
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Because then they're not able to move, or
Uh-huh.
they're just very immobile from that. And it's like, it's hard to see because it's like a lot of this, not all of it can be prevented. Obviously, some people, like maybe they have some sort of a disease where it does degenerate their bones and muscles more. But like, if you can, like, I see videos of people that are in their 80s and they are deadlifting like a lot of weight, and I was like, dang, that's really impressive. Like, I want to be like that. You
Or
know,
like your
at that
client
age.
Don, 83, and he's running 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathon.
5Ks.
Like, it's crazy. And he's beating 70-year-olds, and he's bragging about that.
Yeah, bragging about how you can be 70-year-olds. Yeah, good old Don.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Trainer Talk. If you are ready to gain back control of your health and fitness, we would love to sit down and chat with you to see if we can put together a plan for you. All you have to do is head to taylorhutchinsonfitness.net and book a free consult. Again, make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video, and hopefully we'll see you soon.